is more about dentists getting together to help dentists live a better life within their practice and without their practice, and that comes from overcoming these frustrations, right? And that comes from creating more than just your business plan. Your business plan is awesome and it's important, it's necessary, but in order for that to succeed, you have to know where that fits within your life. So you got to create your life plan. Where does your business fit in with that? And then you got to be a part of something bigger than yourselves, right? You got to be able to give back. What is your legacy? What's your legacy plan? So that's what we do at Elevation Association. We've created this group where we invite people to design their life, to create their leadership plan within their business, and then also how to leave a legacy. And we've had some really cool stuff come out of it, and it's evolving and it's getting better all the time.
This is the Elevation Association experience.
Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the Elevation Association and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the Elevation Association may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Dan Nelson. This is Jared Hill with Elevation Association. So let's just jump into it. This is our first show. We haven't done one. Well, Jared's done some shows, but not our show. So this is our first podcast since our time in Belize with Brad Smith and Steve Call. We're going to try to be putting these out on a weekly basis, talk about things that are relevant in dentistry, talk about things that are relevant to our profession and trends that are happening, and just discuss what's happening in our world. What's happening in your world. We're going to bring in guests from various walks of life, different capacities that contribute to our lives. And we're going to focus on life, leadership, and legacy. Today, we're doing something kind of unique. We're going to actually be talking with Jared about his life and really how he got to the point where it spawned the idea of Elevation Association and how all of this began and why we're at where we're at and why we're relevant. It's kind of funny, I won't say where we were, but we were at a CE event and just this last week. And, we're kind of thinking we're kind of small potatoes right now and, but there's people that are onto what we're doing because what we're doing is making a difference and people are finding success with us, which is really cool. And so we're excited about that, but thought it would be beneficial to talk about how we got where we are because I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate with Jared and what he's gone through and how we got to the point where we were to be able to build Elevation Association. So really quickly, I want to introduce Jared, even though he's one of the three partners with Elevation Association. It's my privilege to be able to talk to him a little bit. So Jared is... he's a lot younger than me.
That's not true.
That's true. But he has more experience in dentistry, which is cool. So Jared he comes from a really cool background. He was raised by his mom by herself. She's a saint with him and his siblings in Boise, Idaho. Mm-hmm. He has 4 kids, so he's traversed that path. He's found some heartbreak in his life. He's had some big success in his life. He's traveled. I call him a world traveler because I go with him on a lot of the trips. But before
we are world travelers.
Yeah, but you've been a lot of places before we met. Yeah. Paris, I think, was the one that
was not. We're not going to bring that one up.
Okay.
Actually, didn't make it to Paris.
Seemed good. So we really just want to give Jared a chance to chat and talk through what he went through and why it's relevant to other dentists and the impact that it can have moving forward. So I'm just going to let you talk, man.
Yeah,
so tell us your story.
It's grateful to be on the show. What is the show called?
It's
the Elevation Association Experience, the Elevated Dentist Experience.
I don't know.
We're gonna make. We'll figure it out.
What's the show called?
We will as we get.
Elevation Association Experience.
There we go.
Oh, it is.
It'll be
In
officially
the mouth of
posted.
2 or 3 witnesses.
That's right. It'll be, that was blasphemous.
No, it wasn't. It's true.
So my story is, I mean, like Dan said, I grew up in Boise, Idaho. The tragedy he's referring to is my dad passed away when I was young. When I was 2, my dad was in an accident, so my mother raised us, and all 4 siblings went different paths and did different things. But consequently, I looked to my friends' dads as examples of what I should do when I grow up, and the guys I wanted to be like were all dentists. And so I said, this seems like to be a great profession. I'm going to go into this. So went to dental school, went to undergrad, BYU, dental school at University of the Pacific, graduated 2006, and then came out and went right into a corporate practice. So we worked at a pediatric Medicaid clinic, because there's a lot of, as a new grad coming out of school, or even as a seasoned dentist, there's a lot of bells and whistles and shiny lures that these corporations can offer.
Yeah. Why did you go there?
So they the private practice, I wanted to practice in Idaho, and I didn't have a great landing place initially. So the corporate industry said, look, we'll give you a guaranteed salary, we get some benefits, and I thought it was a very safe gig. And
Was it safe?
It was. I mean, it was. I mean, I worked 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. I had a few days off a year, not very much, but it was after a few months I was starting to feel a little drained. I felt like it was a lot of work. I don't know if you worked on kids much, but it can be draining when you're in this type of environment. And after a year, I was like, I'm done. I told my wife, Maren, I said, look, we can't. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, I've let you down. No, but this is like, we've got to move on. And she agreed, because I would come home and I would just be a zombie. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be present really. And so we decided to move on, and we found an associate partner, and you felt like I needed a mentor. A lot of these kids coming out of school want to be mentored for good reason. You get a lot of experience in school, but you want to know how the private practice runs. You want to know how clinically, so you want to expand your skill set and so forth. So I found an associateship to partner in Haley, Idaho, which went real well for a year. I was. So
that was with Dan Norris.
That was with Dan Norris, yeah. And Dan is an awesome guy, great dentist. Patients loved him, staff loved him, and but after a year, he was burned out of doing clinical dentistry, and I thought, that's weird. I mean, he's only a few years older than I am, and but I thought he just wanted to do something else. He found something that he really loved. He wanted to do some TMJ, sleep apnea clinic, and so he, after a year, when we were going to partner, he looked and said, look, why don't you just buy the whole practice, and I'm going to move to a bigger city, move to Las Vegas, and get this thing up and running. And so I said, sure. I don't know what that means, but sure, I'll buy the whole thing from you. This was keep in mind, 2008, when everything crashed.
And you were how many years out of school now? 2 years out of school, right?
2 years out of school, yeah. So 1 year in the Medicaid clinic, pediatric Medicaid clinic, and then 1 year now as an associate. So now I'm thrown into the thralls of ownership.
Okay, so 2 years out, you're owning your own practice. That sounds like a lot of people's dreams, right? That sounds pretty ideal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
you would think. It sounds like it.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, though, right?
You don't know what you don't know, right?
So what immediately, once you take over, give me a couple of the challenges that you bumped into right off the bat.
Okay, so right off the bat, initially, I mean, seriously, the first week I had staff members come and say, look, so-and-so has been a temporary hygienist. She wants to go full-time. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, that's fine. Let's do that. Okay.
You get a raise,
yeah.
And you get a raise,
Someone's
and you
get
a raise.
And so it's good. I didn't realize that meant, benefits, that meant, an increase in salary, that meant this and this and that, right? And so all of a sudden
they're jumping on the new guy,
taking advantage of the new guy, right? Let's manipulate the new guy. And after it took me a couple of weeks. I'm like, hold on, before you say yes to anything else, I got to figure out what I'm doing. It took me a while to realize that.
So where did you turn? Happening? Where did you turn? So so this is a big deal for a lot of people. I don't think So dental school is so packed full of clinical, right?
Sure.
That they don't really have an opportunity. We had this talk with both Brad Smith and Steve Call, a lot with Steve Call, about how dentistry, they know it's a weakness. Teaching practice management is a weakness in dental school, partly because there's just not the capacity. You got to get you up to skill, up to capacity.
I totally agree.
Where do you go? Where did you go for help when you were at that junction of your career to get practice management help?
Okay, so I reached out to friends, right? People who about my age who had gone to dental school either with me or
peers,
practice peers, right?
Yeah.
And they were oftentimes in the same boat that I was,
right?
And like,
it's the blind leading the blind.
Blind leading the blind. Yeah, we do this at our practice. It kind of works, kind of doesn't work. Oh, I don't know if I want to implement that strategy in my practice, right? And so then so the next thing that you do is you turn to maybe Component Dental Society, which are great. They do a lot of really great things, but they don't really have a vested interest in the success of your practice necessarily. I mean, they're there to support and help, but and then there's you turn to either your coach or a consultant, right? And so that's what I
want you to tell the story of the consultant that you brought on.
This the first
one, right?
Yeah, we there was a dental supply company that saw that I was frustrated with a lot of things. They said, "Hey, we have a consultant that we recommend." I said, "Awesome." So I got in contact with her. She said, "Here's what I'll do. First I'll come for 3 days to Haley, and I'll interview your staff, and then the next day I'll interview you, and then the third day we'll make a few changes and implementations. You get some systems running in place and so forth." And I said, "Great, this sounds awesome." So she came, and the first day she interviewed all the staff. I just did dentistry and was busy in my gig. The next day, everyone was acting very strange. It was really a mixture of Lord of the Flies and Mutiny on the Ship was what it was. And so there was weird side-eye glances and back conversations going on and closed doors. And I was like, this is not good. And then at noon, that consultant up and left. She's like, "I can't do this. I'm out of here." And I said, what just happened here? Like you just created this dumpster fire and said, "Here, I'm sorry, take this and go for it." So I put that out for the next couple of years. I decided, you know what? I don't know if I trust consultants and coaches. I know there are some amazing ones out there and they do a lot of really great things. But at that point in time, I felt a little bit burned. So I just put my head down and I trudged for the next few years.
To trudge.
Yeah.
So you're trudging through. You're trying to find the really, you're talking about people management at this point, but there's other components, right?
I'm trying to increase my clinical skill set as well. There's the practice is now controlling me, because you sit down and you create a business plan, right? And you project what you want, you reverse engineer it, and you say, okay, I need to produce this much per day or week. Well, what you don't realize is if you don't plan out your life, then that starts to control your life. Because you're staying longer to hit goals, you're working more days to hit goals, and by the end of the year, you're working 210, 20, 30 days, which was too much as well. So the practice was controlling me as well.
So not on top of that, you're battling to make sure you're profitable. You're battling to you're.
Oh yeah, overhead.
Yeah, your overhead. You're watching that. You're trying to grow. You've got all these moving components. So how many years are you out now at this stage that you've brought on a couple consultants?
Oh man, I'm probably 10 years out.
Okay, so you're 10 years. So at this point, clinically, you're sharp.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you guys, Jared's one of the best clinicians I've ever worked with.
Thank you.
That's saying a lot because I've worked with some really awesome clinicians. Now, having said that, how daunting how big is this mountain that you feel like you have to climb? You talk about feeling like Tom Hanks on Castaway.
Yeah. For those older folks who've seen Castaway, which I didn't realize is now like 25 years old. Castaway, it's been out for a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it came out when I was like 10.
You're right. You wish. Dan is older than I am, by the way, 6 months older. Anyway, so you've seen the movie. Tom Castaway's in an airplane.
Wait, Tom Castaway?
Tom Castaway.
Yeah, he's very famous.
Some people
Brian, you've heard of Tom Castaway, right?
People call him Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah.
Is in an airplane, goes down, he gets stranded on this island. And at first, he does all he can to survive. He has hope. I'm going to survive. I'm going to, create this fire. I'm going to, put out an SOS or help or whatever he does on the beach and so forth. And there's hope. And he knows that he has to work hard just to survive, right? And that's kind of paralleled my life. Like, there's hope. I feel like that this is going to pay off someday, because
maybe you'll get off the island.
Yeah, maybe we'll get off the island. As time goes on, as 5, 7, 8, 10 years go on, you're losing hope. You're looking bad, right?
You're making friends with volleyballs.
You're making friends with volleyball. You're talking to inanimate objects. I may or may not have done that before. And at some point in time, you just decide, look, I've got to build a raft. I've got to get off this island. And if that means imminent doom and death, then so be it, right? But I'm going to take the chance of being rescued.
What was your raft? Tonga?
Yeah, I came home one day. Dan's referring to. I came home one day in like 2015 or 2016, and I said, "Maren, I'm done. Like, this is it. Like, I'm going to move to Tonga. I can't do this anymore. I can't. We've hit a growth ceiling. Working hard. We can't break this barrier." Right, and the profit is there, but it's not like what it should be. I feel like for how much we're working, the people are killing me. Practice is still controlling me. Cut my losses, and we're just gonna move to Tonga. And she's like, "Tonga? Why Tonga?" And I said, "It's as far away as I can think of from this place right now."
And it's not that you didn't like living in Haley, right? It was
fine.
just that you were burnt out.
I was burnt out. I was done.
So you found yourself in the same position that the guy you bought the practice from was in.
Yeah, it took me longer to get there.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was the same thing.
So I think this is a good talking point right here, and I think this is worth taking a second to discuss, because this is the hurdle. This is what dissuades new grads from wanting to have anything to do with administration. They just want to jump into something where all of that's taken care of, whatever that is that's offered to them, whether it be an associateship or something else, rather than buying their own practice. Because I think, especially today with the market like it is, the hiring market, and all of everything really, I think it dissuades them, right? I think it was certainly, there's a compelling story to be had of not going into private practice. So
Yeah.
I think that it's important that people that understand where you're coming from know that there is a lifeline, that there's something else out there. And I think we'll get into that in a minute. But what did you have at this stage? I mean, you were basically like, I'm done. I'm out here. So what kept you from leaving?
Yeah. So then I decided, like, I built that raft, and I said, look, I'm gonna do something different. I gotta change what I've been doing, or I'll go insane. Right. So I had a few associates also during that period that were some were great, some were not great. For me, anyways, they were all great people. They just didn't work out well. And finally, I had these guides come into my life, I would say. So if you've seen the movie Star Wars, again, dating myself, this is 1977 that it came out.
Star Wars is timeless.
It is timeless.
2-year-olds know what Star Wars is.
That's right. And so, you've got the story of Luke Skywalker, who has these guides come into his life. So he's this struggling guy, this kid who's trying to find his life and his place in his life, and he meets Obi-Wan, right? And Obi-Wan comes in and kind of gives him a little history and background and helps him. And then he meets Yoda, and Yoda teaches him some more. And anyway, you have these guides that come into your life. So the first guide, I think, that came into my life that really helped with isolation was Dan. So in 2016, Dan, we met through a series of...
First time that's been said of me ever by anyone.
We'll edit that out. So it's through a series of really serendipitous events, Dan and I got together. He was living in Japan at the time, serving in the Air Force in dentistry. And when he came and interviewed, it was like, yes, this is going to work. Like, Dan had an incredible skill set, a surgical skill set that was amazing, and he had the training, and he had the personality that this practice really needed. So they needed somebody like Dan. I needed somebody like Dan, and so Dan came on, and all of a sudden, Dan and I started to collaborate. We started to talk about cases. And then we started to talk about what some strategies for our staff, strategies for our practice. So we didn't have all the answers, but all of a sudden, the collaboration reduced the isolation, right? which I didn't have. Somebody who was just as invested in me, even though he was still an associate, even you were still an associate at the time, right? But within a few months, we knew that this was something that we wanted to do long term, and so we had a year contract to be an associate, but after 6 months or so, we're like, yes, Dan, just buy in, just let's be partner, let's do this. And so that was the first guide that came into my life, right? And so Dan came on, we got super busy, and all of a sudden we had a lot of these same frustrations that we had before, right? Because we had our heads down.
We were out of bandwidth.
We were out of bandwidth, right? So we knew we had obstacles or hurdles that we didn't know. We knew that data was incredibly important. We just didn't have time to really sit down and analyze it and go over it because we were always working in someone's.
Well, that was one of the frustrating things too, is that we knew we had tools in place that were meant to help with practice management and with leadership and all that, but we didn't have the bandwidth to do it.
Right. So that's when our second guide came in, and that's Ryan Passy. So Ryan came in 2019. Now, and Ryan's got an incredible background history in retail. And
he's sitting behind the camera.
Has a lot of numbers. He had a really good grasp on data. The one thing that Ryan didn't know was dentistry.
No big deal. No big deal.
No big deal, right?
So, it's the same.
Well, we thought, we were so impressed with Ryan, but we were like, we have complete confidence in you. Would you be willing to come in and take a look at this opportunity to help us with our business of our practice? And Ryan, was at a point in his time when he could see kind of the vision and said yes. Luckily for us, and Ryan came in and we handed him a growth report and said, fix this. and so Ryan started to ask questions, and so he asked questions, what is this? What is this? And so he knew he needed to be more educated. So he got a pair of headphones and sat down and watched video and tutorial of what is perio, what is endo, what is all of these things. He learned the language of dentistry in a few weeks, which was incredible. And then he would come to us and say, why do you guys do this? And Dan and I would say, I don't know. And he would say, well, why are you doing this? I don't know, right?
Why are you asking?
Why? I don't know. Is there another way? And he's like, what? And some people do it this way. And I'm like, that's whatever. So Ryan came in and helped us use data-driven decisions, right? So all of a sudden, some of these frustrations of, do we have enough patients to do this? What should our hygienist be producing? What should I be producing per hour in order to get this? How can we be more efficient in this area? So Ryan would come in and help us understand those decisions that really created this huge turning point in our practice.
Massive turning point. Yeah, a pivot. Okay, so really let's take a step back. So you've got some guides in your life. I think you would certainly cite Brad Smith as a guide,
yes,
Gino Wickman as an indirect guide by way of Traction, and give credit to his contribution.
If you haven't read Traction, go buy it right now.
Right? Yeah. So I want to jump back though, and I'm going to give a little bit of my perspective, just a tiny bit. And there's two stories I want to talk about. One was, the first thing is that Jared had bought a beautiful building 3 years before I had come in, and it was a big building. It had an upstairs that used to be a dance floor.
That's why I bought it.
It was, well, yeah, you need to unwind somehow.
It had mirrors all around.
Just need to dance. Jared loves to dance. He's dancing right now. You just can't see. But that one of the things that struck me was that we had these two desks in this giant space, and I had been sitting. They faced each other, and I'd been sitting there for several months and had never needed or wanted to go sit at Jared's desk. And so one time I had to go read a CBCT that mine wasn't working on my computer, so I jumped over to Jared's desk and immediately noticed that it leaned towards the wall, like significant lean. Like I almost fell over, like over here. Like obviously, if you're just listening, you can't see, but almost a 45-degree angle. I'm like, he busted his chair. Something's not right here. He came back and I was like, dude, how do you sit in that chair? Why is your chair leaning like that? He's like, what? I don't know. And then we had a fairly toxic employee come up to talk to him, and I realized as he's leaning away from her why his chair would lean. And I realized it's a hidey spot.
It's a hidey spot. I've got a big bubble. I don't like people around me. And if I could lean low enough underneath the monitor, sometimes she wouldn't even know I was there. So that's the parable of the leaning chair there. It was, it was a hiding spot. I was right.
So the other thing that he brought up that has nothing to do with the leaning chair, except that was like the first time I really realized how deep his struggle was before I got there. But the other component is about, I don't know, we were probably, I said, man, this is a big space. This is a lot of building. And he said, I've always had this idea. We live in a vacation spot of having people come here to do some kind of mastermind or CE or something. And so talk a little bit about that. Where did that come from?
So there's a really cool saying, a really cool quote that says that one of the greatest factors in the success of our species is our ability to harness the power of collectiveness. So and I think
what does that mean?
So you got a horse pulling a cart. The cart gets heavier. All of a sudden you add another horse. Oh, now it's a much easier weight to pull. Now you add a team of horses, but 4 horses on there, right? So you're pulling, and you can add more to that weight, and so you're taking the collective experiences, and here's how I looked at it. You're taking these collective experiences of Dennis, and we're putting that together. Now we're harnessing power of a unified direction. And so I thought, there's got to be other dentists out there who have some solutions to some of the problems, and others that have other solutions to other problems. And if we could just get everybody in the same room, if we could not peacock around, if we could just be vulnerable, share our honest, true numbers, stats, data, in a non-judgmental environment from a non-competing markets, that's when we can get stuff done.
Part of it, I would say that would you agree that the spark that lit the flame was that feeling of isolation and that feeling of, where do I turn for help on this one thing? If I just had someone to talk to about this, if I had, hey, there's this new product coming down the pipeline. Yeah. Does anybody use this? Right. I mean, we have our friends from dental school, or area friends or friends in the profession, but if there was like a given thing, and I think that's part of what you're saying, you were like, hey, this would be cool just to sit and collaborate. And you compared it to a group that I know your sister-in-laws belong to, their boss belongs to, right?
Yeah. There's he's an owner of a tech company, and they have these HTG peer groups that he goes to. And as I was sitting down complaining to her one night, my sister-in-law, about how frustrated I was, she said, well, my boss does this. He goes to these conferences where they print out their quarterly reports, they send them in ahead of time, and then they keep in these small groups of 8 or 10 or 12 people, and you get together and you just compare and say, hey, how are you so good in this metric? Like, what are you doing in this metric? And I said, he does this, how often? They get together quarterly, and I'm like on a phone call. He's like, no, they fly out to like Florida, or they go to Chicago, or do whatever, to have these conferences. And she said, not only that, but what they do is they talk about life. They talk about their life. They talk about how their business is affecting their life, which she said, I think maybe even the more important part for him. And so the
commiseration portion, the collaboration,
commiseration, the hey, this is what I'm doing to find satisfaction in my life. And so I set out to look for that group. There was no HTG peer group for dentists, and so I set out to look for other groups that were similar. And there are a lot of really great groups to be a part of out there. There's a lot of mastermind groups. There's a lot of consulting groups that do a lot of really awesome things. You just got to find out what works for you, what your tribe is, right?
That's a catchword for us, right?
Yeah.
Because
you got to measure your tribe in 2 ways.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, the tribe that you're part of, a tribe is only successful if the individual members in the tribe are thriving. Okay, so what does thriving mean? You have to be successful. You have to have prosperity. Whatever thriving means to you, the individuals of that tribe have to thrive. The second component of a successful tribe or community or organization is that the members have to have the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Okay, so and whatever that means to you, and that's not the same for everybody. And so I often would go to some of these groups or CE courses and so forth, and and they were really great, but I never found the tribe that I was looking for.
Why? What was missing? Tell me what wasn't working in those situations.
A couple things. One, sometimes there were too big of groups. Right, so you get into a room of 30 or 40 dentists, and all of a sudden,
Nobody wants to talk about their struggles.
No one's going to share anything,
Sure.
because there's always one guy that domineers everything, right? That knows everything, and
We call it peacocking, right? Spread the feathers and look how awesome I am. Let me talk to you about how awesome I am. Also, I'm awesome if you didn't hear about how awesome I am, and just dominates, right?
right.
So, and then no one wants to say anything after that person said stuff.
it never gets shut down, right? So, and that's one problem. The other problem is, and not everyone's willing to be open and vulnerable in a lot of these things. So even if there isn't one person who takes over everything, it is no one likes to be embarrassed or admit that they don't know something or need help in a certain way.
I like that you said the last podcast you did. It's like, here's your lanyard, here's your seat assignment, here's your Snickers.
Yeah, I hate it.
Let's go somewhere tropical and stay inside for 8 hours at a
I hate
time.
traditional CE courses, and I know you need to get your hours in, right? You have to get certain hours for amount of for your license, right? But can we not do this a better way? I really hated going to these things. You go down to Vegas and you go to the hotel and you take a break. You start at 8, you take a break at 10, you eat your Snickers, you go back and you take a break for an hour and you just sit at your table and take notes, and there's got to be a better way. So I lose attention after about an hour and a half, and 2 hours max, and I'm like,
I'm 5 minutes.
I prefer, and I need time to process what's been said. So I said, let's do this a different way. And we live in this amazing area. We live in Sawtooth, and there are so many amazing areas around this world where you can incorporate an awesome adventure along with some amazing continuing education. Now, there are a lot of clinical courses out there that are so much better than I could ever provide.
Sure, we've got friends at like Whitecap who put on fantastic implant
they're
boot camp,
so
surgical
good.
boot camp, stuff like that we're not trying to replicate any of
No,
that.
absolutely not. Not interested in that. But those are important, and you got to go to those. This is more about dentists getting together to help dentists live a better life within their practice and without their practice, and that comes from overcoming these frustrations, right? And that comes from creating more than just your business plan. Your business plan is awesome and it's important, it's necessary, but in order for that to succeed, you have to know where that fits within your life. So you got to create your life plan. Where does your business fit in with that? And then you got to be a part of something bigger than yourselves, right? You got to be able to give back. What is your legacy? What's your legacy plan? So that's what we do at Elevation Association. We've created this group where we invite people to design their life, to create their leadership plan within their business, and then also how to leave a legacy. And we've had some really cool stuff come out of it, and it's evolving and it's getting better all the time.
I'm grateful for Jared's journey, because without his journey, I wouldn't be able to be here. I think that, let's be honest, his desperation allowed me to come in, and really it would take a desperate dentist to bring me on anywhere. So
It's not true. Lucky to have that. Lucky.
But the formation of Elevation Association came through the collaboration of 3 people that I think by ourselves, I don't think we could have ever have done it.
Absolutely not.
We bring these different components, and these come from different walks of life. And as we're adding members and the members are joining, and as we're growing, we're finding that collaborative effort is so impressive. We've got, the inventors of Elementa Silver, who bring this incredible scientific component and their adventures in creating this fantastic new product. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. That we have people that are fee for service. We have some that are taking insurance. We have some that are in the beginning of just being new parents, and some that are on the other side of it. We have some that have done military, and some that have done residencies, and then they're also coming from different walks of life and want to leave a mark, leave something behind, and do something bigger than themselves. And we're facilitators for that. And it's such a cool thing to be a part of growing something that is way beyond our own capacity. Okay, I have one more question for you, Jared, before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Because I think that, again, I keep talking about how relevant your story is, because I think so many people are in this boat where they think either they have to go corporate or they just got to give up, or maybe they're like, I got to get out of this altogether. I mean, I hate life. Or they just burn out, they just simply burn out. So with your experience and in hindsight, I want you to share 3 things that you've learned along the way. That you've shared a lot here, but I want you to single out the 3 things that have been most impactful and that you think would be most impactful for someone listening to this.
Okay, so the first thing I think is you don't have to do it alone, right? You don't have to know everything. You don't have to come up with all the answers. There are people out there who are willing and wanting to collaborate and work together, right? There's that synergistic effect, which is absolutely real, even within dentistry, and you just need to search and find those people. And it's not going to be everybody. We're kind of a unique group. We're not for everybody, and we don't want to be. Frankly, we're a group that people who want to be vulnerable, help each other, and have awesome, fun experiences.
Yeah, but kind of experience life at a fuller extent, right?
Exactly.
But we get not everybody's like that, That. But you're saying find something, find somebody,
find that people. Yeah. The other thing I'd say would be to make sure you make data-driven decisions, right? So if it's one thing that's changed my life in the practice, is having the confidence to make decisions because I understand all the data, right? And so we use we currently have used Dental Intel for a long time. They provide great data. There are other options out there as well that are really great. So, and then the third thing I would say that the third lesson I would say would be to make sure that you design the life that you want to live. Be realistic about it, but design the life you want to live, which is not easy to do.
So you're saying have a plan. Is that what you mean?
I'm saying have a plan. I'm saying have a life plan and make sure that it all fits into it. Do not go down this road for 20 years and then say, oh man, wish I would have thought about this ahead of time.
Yeah, walk the dog. Don't be walked by the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly right. Yeah, you be in charge of your own destiny, right? I think it's important for everyone to kind of know what is it like to be an EA member, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do? What does that mean?
Yeah, go into that for just a second. Yeah.
So just real quick. So we help you put together these plans, this leadership plan for your business, this life plan for your life, and this legacy plan. So these are all things that we work together with. And then what we do is we meet with you, Ryan specifically, and
Ryan and Josh,
and sometimes we'll jump in on these calls too on a weekly basis. We'll call you and we will review all the data with you. Hey, how's it going? How's last week going? How did it compare to last year? What are some things we can do different? That's the weekly accountability that we want to have and offer, for everybody, because that's what's changed our life as well. And then once a month, you're going to get on a Zoom call. You're going to meet with the other members of your tribe. You're going to say, hey, there's 10 of us on here. We're just going to compare and we're going to review data. And we're going to say, hey, this is, Leighton, how are you so good at this? Why is your fluoride percentage so high? Or what are you doing? What is your verbiage here? And then
why is your overhead so low? What are you doing in this particular KPI?
Or hey, I got a real struggle, guys. There's guys around, my hygienist is doing this, whatever. So that's what that looks like. And then in the wintertime, in January, February, March-ish, you're going to find yourself on a trip to somewhere exotic, probably.
I don't know, Belize, El
Salvador, Panama. Last year we were in Panama. We did a surf camp. It took a week of just you and your wife, by the way, because
or husband.
Or your husband. Thank you. You shouldn't make a life plan without your spouse
or significant other. It doesn't have to be. Other. Yeah, whoever.
So you'll do that. And then we'll meet throughout the months, and then come June, you have the opportunity to go to Africa. We haven't talked about this because this is
we're gonna do a separate. We'll do a separate podcast for Africa, but it's Tanzania, and it's awesome.
In short, we created a Dental Legacy Foundation, a humanitarian project that it is a life-changing thing. You have the opportunity to be a part of.
DentalLegacyFoundation.org. Check it out.
Go check it out. And then you come home and in the fall, September, you're going to come to beautiful Sun Valley, where it is the best time of year to come. And we're gonna have some CE, and we're going to only be in class for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. Then we're going to paddleboard the Silver Creek Preserve. Maybe we're going to go up and hike up to the Norton Lakes, or maybe we will head up to El Tourist and do some wake surfing, or whatever.
River rafting, or go on a big long hike around the Sawtooth Mountains, or
then we'll come back. We'll have some more CE for an hour and a half, and then we'll go back out and do something else. So this is what your EA life looks like. And in the meantime, you've got a question, you just send a text. We got a text thread group to the EA members and say, hey, I've got a question about this. What do you guys think? Or Dan and I and Ryan are available at all times as well to respond to texts and questions. So
I think it's worth talking about that this is a group of dentists, but we also have people that are, movers and shakers in the industry that contribute. You guys like the dentist advisors.
Absolutely.
We look at, different CPA groups, or maybe someone that is helping you out with setting up, an attorney, setting up some of your legacy stuff. So we are more than just, I don't want to say just, because I think there's an absolute power in the group of dentists, but we also want to incorporate some of these peripheral components that contribute to our profession.
Yeah. The more people that we can get to be a part of this is there's more power in that collectiveness. However, we're not going to make the same mistake that a lot of these other companies make. We're not going to grow too big. You'll never be in this monster group. You'll never be sitting in this classroom of 50, 100 dentists. That's just not us, right? So, you'll have your group, 10, 20 guys or dentists, whatever, and then we'll create a new one, and then we'll facilitate that as well. So it's been a wild ride. It's been an evolution. It's evolving as we speak, and it's just we're trying to add more and more value with everything that we learn from all the guys that we collaborate with.
Well, I think a lot of people appreciate your story. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Jared's an absolute stud. If you ever want to just connect with him and chat with him, he would be more than willing to talk about, commiserate with him.
Totally.
You don't have to be in the depths of despair. There's another way, right? And so, and that, I alluded to that earlier, and I hope that if there's no other message that we get across, is that there is support, there's help, and you can thrive and be happy in our fantastic career, this amazing profession that we have, and that we can be ahead, we can build the life that we want to do, we can leave a legacy and really enjoy this journey that we're on. So, awesome. Jared, we'll thank you for sharing all this. We will we'll kick out another episode next week. Look forward to bringing on some pretty cool guests. I think everyone will enjoy. Thanks for listening. As always, check us out on elevationassociation.com. Feel free to, there's a contact there. If you guys ever have any questions, please let us know. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.